maybe there are people out there who are more important than us, more powerful and wealthier than us, that are communicating things and seeing things in the world that are meant for only them and not for us. I think it's fucking ridiculous to assume that media has just one purpose, right?
Yeah,
Oh, you think that's weird?
a little.
Welcome back to another episode of The Harbor. I'm your host, the Kino Cowboy, and I'm here like always with my co-host Scott Keith. Today, we're talking about 2018, or some might consider 2019's Under the Silver Lake,
Why would they consider
A24.
2019?
Well, it was done and it had screened in 2018 and it was supposed to come out, and then there was this big weird delay. They didn't know how to market it or what to do with it. And so it didn't come out until April 2019.
Yeah, I understand how if you were a producer, you get a pitch of Andrew Garfield covers the conspiracy behind Hollywood. How you're like, oh, people would watch that, and then you get the cut, and you're like, what? Who's gonna watch this? You and I are.
This is directed by David Robert Mitchell, which he directed the indie hit It Follows. A big, not big financially in the box office, but a big
part of the horror renaissance we've had in the past.
Yes, in the 2010s, we had that big renaissance.
Helped kick it off.
This was part of it. People were talking about this movie back in the day a lot. And I really enjoyed that movie, and I liked the way that it was shot. And I like that Silver Lake is shot completely different from it. But
I can see the footprint there, or fingerprint, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But it's definitely its own thing.
But
it follows this more slow, brooding, dreadful as an inspiring dread. This is erratic, conspiratorial, paranoid, schizophrenic.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is this guy has chops for directing, and it sucks that after these two films, he hadn't really found anything. And now he announced that They Follow just recently, and everyone's like, well, wait a minute. How are you going to do a sequel to It Follows? And as of right now, we don't know enough about They Follow to know if it's an actual great idea he had, and that's why he wants to do another one, or if this is his only way back into getting a mainstream film.
It could be both.
Yeah.
It's definitely the second one, I think.
But yeah.
And one of the not conspiracies, the theories that I heard about They Follow, it's kind of like It. The kids grow up and now they are following it, the demon thing, and trying to find its origin.
Oh, okay.
Kill it or something. That's what.
Well, yeah. Andrew Garfield, who's great in everything. He's the star of this film. I love him in everything. Even in the inferior Spider-Man movies, he's still good as a Spider-Man. I wouldn't say he's the great Peter Parker, but he's a good Spider-Man.
Yes. And we, a lot of people, comics fans, thought Toby was too nerdy, and we think he's not nerdy enough because Toby cemented himself in our generation's mind. We're not going to get into that. I do like that we see him reading a Spider-Man comic at one point in the movie. I was like, yeah, pop culture, which is what this movie's about. The pop cultural detritus and how it is rammed down our gullet and is a substitution for religion for many people, yours truly as well.
Yeah,
all the exploitation and Bilderberg groups and Kevin Spaceyisms that go along with it.
Yeah, this is what I like to call slacker-noire. I'm sure that term's been thrown around before, but it's this and Inherent Vice and The Big Lebowski. They're all under that umbrella, I'd say, slacker-noire. And all different variations of experimental storytelling of all the three films I just listed. There's more out there, but this one is obviously trying to kind of go for the what if all these conspiracies were true and all of this was easy for, not easy, but just this guy who's obsessed with trying to figure out the truth actually is able to piece it together. And to me, it's kind of a wishful thinking kind of movie. Like, um, you
This
know,
movie's so Alan Moore, the comic book writer, Watchmen, V for Vendetta, etc. If you watch this, you know who fucking Alan Moore is. I don't know why I'm explaining. Like, how would you not know Alan Moore, but you know us anyway? The He had a good quote I always refer to with conspiracy theories. People are not afraid of conspiracy theories; they're afraid of the theories not being true, because conspiracy theories mean that there's some sort of order in the world, but without them, the world is rudderless, and
yeah,
that's the terrifying point.
yeah,
And I
people,
think that's really, it's said pretty much in this movie when Topher Grace says, oh, something to the effect of, um, people come up with mysteries because there's no more mystery in the world, or something like that.
yeah, yeah. That's it's people are scared of the world actually being as boring as it is. Now,
Yes.
the thing is, though, while not probably presented in the way that it is in this movie, there are dark, weird things that go on in Hollywood, especially with the elites and ritualistic things that some of these people believe in. So it's not like a far-fetched thing to think certain aspects of like this could be similar to what actually happens over in Hollywood, but it's definitely its own thing. But
No,
that's why it's fun to kind of buy into what's being said in the movie here, because I like that kind of stuff.
yeah, you're big into it.
Yeah.
I have a passing interest in it. You have a more than a passing interest.
Yeah. And
It's,
obviously,
I mean, there's got to be wild, weird sex orgies, and um there's definitely stuff in this movie. If you look on the Reddit and online, people have decoded this movie, and they've gone and they've found the cryptographer that this movie hired, and there are hidden codes. The question is, do they meaning anything? Does it come together, or is it just a bunch of references and Easter eggs thrown in there? And is the David Robert Mitchell leading those breadcrumbs to kind of make people feel like they're the main character, who's not named in the movie, but in the script he's Sam, um, played by Andrew Garfield. Because I do think this movie, I don't know, it's both observes that there are secrets in the world and celebrates conspiracy theories in a way, and that mindset of peering beneath the veil, but it also criticizes taking that to an extreme.
yeah.
There's
There's
also
some,
the strong possibility that the main character Sam is just a complete paranoid schizophrenic, and all of this is going through his head, or a lot of it is.
yeah, probably. And that's the thing is like there's black comedy to it. There's a lot of satire to it. Now, for the cryptology stuff, I assume it's just for fun. Alex Hirsch did the same thing for Gravity Falls with the main bad guy from that. What's
Right,
his
because
name?
there's things that refer to the Bilderberg Group or something like the Rothschilds. People have traced it there, which are all pretty well-known conspiracy theories that the Rothschilds control the banking industry or whatever. Does one
Yeah.
family control the banking industry? No. Is it possible that a lot of rich people come together and influence it? Yes. There are politicians who get together and do weird ritual stuff, but I think a lot of that it's just to build a sense of community, and kind of to get this group think going. And there's also a bit of, well, if we've both done this, then we both kind of have dirt on each other, and now we're in this together. I
Yeah.
think that's part of it with some of these secret rituals and secret society things.
But it gets dark because there are a lot of people out there do, elites and all kinds of shit. They believe whether Satan in Israel, which he's not, they still might believe in Satanism or ritualistic things. I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, child trafficking, pedophile rings, it's all shit that's true, unfortunately. So there is a dark side of Hollywood, which we we see captured in this and other films similar to it, like Mulholland Drive, which we covered on this cast. And this feels like in the same realm. This is more like dark comedy in a way than like say Mulholland Drive, but it feels like in the same realm of that kind
Oh
of.
no, this there's a direct lineage from Mulholland Drive to this
Yeah,
movie.
for sure. I once called it the spiritual sequel, but I retract that. It's just in the same realm. But yeah. And not only that, but we do get that flair of obvious golden age Hollywood influence, the way it's the entire film is made. It's got
I
it's got
I have to talk
classic.
about the score.
Yeah, it's got, first of all, the Hollywood score, the classic one that changes as the film goes on. What's wrong with it?
It takes me out of the movie. Absolutely.
Oh,
And
weird.
maybe that's the point, but the fact that there are lines said, for example, a later, and this is a comment on the pedophilia, that Lolita chick who with the balloon, he was Sam says, "Oh, I didn't know you were an actress," and she was like, "I was a," because it turns out that she's a prostitute because all of these starlets are prostitutes. Which the social commentary is really on the nose there. With the whoring out of image of women's, because this movie is also about the male gaze, about the treatment of women in Hollywood, the treatment of women in images and advertising. But at one point she says, "I was on a soap opera when I was 5 to 6 months old," and then there's a stinger like bing. I mean, I'm barely exaggerating. There are moments like that, and I have some of them written down here that maybe it's trying to be. I don't know what it's trying to do, because especially in the first half of this movie, there's a lot of things in this movie I think don't come together. And this movie took me a while to get into, an hour, maybe a little more, over an hour to get into. Maybe if I
Interesting.
rewatched it, I would appreciate it more.
For me,
Um,
it's right away. I'm just interested. I'm going along with it, and I'm having a good time while I do it. I love the score. I like the way that it shifts when it gets more surreal or a little more naturalistic. It changes, it ebbs and flows. I like that. That stinger is the only thing that really stands out, is kind of weird to me. I don't remember anything being that crazy.
there's a
Um,
few of them. I just paid attention to it. Tonally, it was odd. I know it was supposed to, and it was supposed to be, I guess, sort of a, I gotta find a word other than Brechtian, a distancing mechanism to kind of, maybe it was supposed to take you out of the movie so you could see what the movie was doing thematically, with certain things like that. But it just did not work for me at all. Um,
Interesting. I think it works great for me, and I thought it was a interesting swing, and especially when he's surrounded by golden all golden age Hollywood posters, shit on TV, all these dead stars,
right,
Tombstone.
because his religion is pop culture. This movie is
Yeah,
about pop culture, and it's control over the American populace and world populace.
and there's the obvious rear window where he's spying on his neighbors. One of them is a topless old lady who's likes to water the plants. Fuck it, people are free and loose
Yeah,
over there. You know,
she's she's lived her life.
I know, but this guy's just like a pervert. And normally, peeping Tom weirdo perverts don't get laid like he does in this movie, and that's why it's like a fantasy kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and also they don't look like Andrew Garfield, to be
That's
fair.
true. He did luck out.
He it is that thing. He's banging Ricky Lindholm, I think that's her name, from Garfunkel and Oates. Uh, who again, the first thing she's wearing, I think it's almost like a barmaid outfit, like an Oktoberfest-esque thing. And the
Yeah.
second thing we see her in is a nurse outfit, almost like a cartoonish 1950s nurse outfit. And it's almost one of the reasons they're together is because she's this actress who has this sort of old school sexual objectification aesthetic, although it's because she's going to auditions. And he's into that because there's a pretty important scene in the movie where he's jerking off to a bunch of vintage porn.
Yeah. And yeah,
And
this guy is
watch.
like sexually charged.
My hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 point out of about 2 pages of bullet points is Andrew is too handsome to be an incel. That is before we even get that woman, Ricky Lindholm's character.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think he's less of an incel than he just like
Well, he's not a cell.
he just accidentally falls into sleeping situations with women. It's kind of funny.
He's a failed, yeah. And that is a fantasy outfit. I don't know. Maybe um, he's definitely. So I think he's a failed musician. That's what I pick up from it because he's really into Kurt Cobain, his guitar. He plays guitar. He had to be in LA for a reason, and his mom is obviously not in LA. I think she's been helping him out financially, and she supported his dreams because she's a cinephile. She was like, "Yeah, go out to LA. That'll be great. I love old movies." His dad is nowhere to be seen.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it later, but there's the whole thing with his girlfriend that pops up seemingly out of nowhere, although it is breadcrumbed throughout the movie.
And obviously something he's not getting money from his mom because he's about to get kicked out of his apartment.
Yeah, well, if he did, he's not getting enough.
Yeah. There's a countdown the whole time. It's like he should be scrambling any way he can to make some money in these 5 days. And instead he's spending it on this crazy journey through Hollywood.
So conspiracy theory I read, and it's interesting because during the credits, when it has the cartoon versions of him, I thought, oh, he looks like Shaggy. This guy's Shaggy from Scooby-Doo. Everybody broke up and went their separate ways. That's why he has the dog treats in his pocket. That's why he's always solving mysteries. That's why he doesn't want to talk about his old job, because how's he supposed to explain that he just got high?
Oh my God. All the time? Jesus, dude. Like, there's obvious commentary and hatred for like socialites and LA bullshit, and it's not very subtle, and it may seem over the top, but unfortunately I think it could be right on the money when he goes up to that party, that rooftop party with the pool and all that, and there's all these snobby, shallow like LA socialites and shit. It just seems on the money, and I would be
LA is a weird place.
I would be disgusted to be around.
I was there a few months ago. There's a lot of shallowness. There's cool people, but you have to find them, and there's a lot of people who I'm like, you're a very unfunny software engineer. Why are you at this open mic? But anyway,
yeah,
I'm better than you. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, like there's a part where he's in the bathroom, in the women's bathroom, and all those like super feminists and like their pink hair art start barking at him and shit. Like that's funny to me.
That movie, that's ridiculous.
That's where the comedy comes in. Like, yeah,
I didn't laugh at it. I was just like, I wasn't sucked into it yet. And I was just like, what is?
Oh man, you're tough.
I guess that's his point of view. He's being barked at by feminists because they're
it's a funny little silly kind of satirical dark, I don't know, take on LA. It doesn't have to be subtle for me. Thought it was pretty funny.
Of course.
Yeah, and we really get the core of it when he's in the bath after being sprayed with a skunk, and he's explaining like there's subliminal messages he's noticed in Wheel of Fortune, and Vanna White like making certain movements that he paid attention to. And I've seen some similar shit like that online. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
He scares off the only girl that's really into him, that he has very seemingly emotionless robotic sex with, like uncomfortable movie sex.
Yeah, like they're both watching the news while they're having sex. Yeah, that's how it frames.
Yeah, watching a guy getting, death faked or murdered.
Which I don't understand, because he tells his mom in the scene before he doesn't have cable. I don't know if he just didn't want her to, if he just wanted to brush that off and didn't want to watch the movie or what.
I don't know. Well, maybe it's not cable. It's on just your regular channel, your non-cable channels.
Yeah,
like your channel 4 or whatever. You can still get some news, some channels without subscribing to cable.
Now, obviously, there, could be subliminal messages here and there. There's historically been records that you play backwards to hear a secret message, but it's usually just for fun. And rock and roll bands tend to find the devil and shit like that to be fun and part of their aesthetic, not that they think that this is a message that needs to be heard for some sort of ritualistic purpose.
Right. It used to be genuinely transgressive. Now it's just fun.
Yeah.
It's the messages. It's in advertising, and it's in the social control. I do think Hollywood is one of the greatest propaganda machines for American imperialism. That it's because it's American cultural imperialism is still in force. Not full force like it used to be due to the internet, but it is. I don't know. You go abroad and people are into Friends and Indiana Jones or whatever American series you're into, and also I think it represents a lot of capitalist values. I think that was one reason to do it. I always think it's ridiculous how big the houses are in a lot of old movies, and you're like, what does this family do to afford this house? The dad's a janitor. And the question is, it looks better on camera and it's easier to haul film equipment into. I think is the answer.
Yeah.
I mean, even in this movie, I'm like, these are some pretty nice apartments, honestly.
Yeah. And I wonder how much his rent is. Probably like 3,000 at least.
Yeah, this is pre-COVID too.
Yeah. And that's the thing is like he probably wrote this script a few years before this movie and then probably filmed it like 2017-ish. But that's the thing is like he probably didn't know just how worse all this conspiracy shit would get in the Trump era age of Russian bots and like misinformation and stuff like that. It's only gotten worse, and conservative and right-leaning alt-right conspiracies have escalated on TikTok and YouTube and then flat earth has become popular in the last 6-7 years. Just stuff like that. That the moon is a hologram, just stuff like that. Crazy shit.
About that one. You're
Adrenochrome.
Adrenochrome. Yeah, Epstein was arrested and suicided, air quotes for the listeners, in 2019. So he's a bit ahead of the curve,
Yeah, for sure.
Stuff. Although this was I guess Me Too was in full swing.
Yeah.
Very Me Too era film.
Yeah. And of course, like I said, this is a wishful thinking. He wants to be in the middle of something big, something important.
He wants to be something. And the thing is, like, American culture does that because it's highly competitive and we venerate fame and youth and beauty like no one else. Of course, everybody does that. Every culture since the beginning of time has venerated beauty and such, but we do it to such a sickening degree, and we have the mass media and the system of Hollywood behind it. It's so ingrained into our economy even that it makes people crazy. I'm an amateur stand-up comedian. I definitely have times where I feel like I have to make something of my life because I'm inherently not enough. And I think that's an American sickness, more so than it is other places. Not to say it's uniquely American. It's just heightened here. And he's definitely feeling that there. And the alienation we feel as other social institutions, such as family and the church have eroded. So what's left? Talking about movies on the internet. Here we are.
The whole backdrop of the movie is that there's a dog killer out there, and that's what instigates everything. And that doesn't really get resolved.
I think I thought about it.
The dog killer.
Either he could be the dog killer, or maybe it's just because the hobos don't like dogs, and the hobos are a big part of this movie. And maybe they just start going on strike because they don't like dogs because dogs chase them through the streets or something. I don't know. It's not resolved. There are loose threads in this movie. Absolutely. And in his head or in whatever supplementary material he wrote for himself, world building, is it all connected? Or is David Robert Mitchell just says, hey, this would be a cool idea. Hey, this would be a cool scene. We don't know, and we never will, I hope.
Well, it's throughout the whole film, so it's not just like a one-off thing. He keeps
having reoccurring
dreams that are sexual in nature, and then they turn to dogs barking and stuff like that. And then he comes across a dead dog in the park and he's chased. And then several scenes he wakes up, but then there's parts where you're like, well, wait, did he just wake up from a dream? What happened? Especially when the naked owl lady comes into his apartment. You assume that's a dream, and it was, but like I don't remember there being a specific shot of him waking up after that, which I like that it
No,
kind
there
of
isn't.
I like that it devolves in that way. And then you were talking about the homeless. That's what makes it feel like in the same kind of vein as Mulholland Drive is that when the homeless king shows up after Andrew Garfield rubs the statue at Griffin Park, it reminds me kind of like the Cowboy meeting with Justin Theroux and shit. Just kind of similar key characters that are intertwined with like the powers that be, kind of similar
Right.
stuff.
It's like the homeless in John Wick. They're part of a secret system.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh man. Don't get me started on fucking yeah, that shit's cool, man.
oh yeah,
That-
and it did
That's
just
how you world
Lawrence
build for an
Fishburne
action
chewing the
movie.
scenery, having the time of his life.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. One of my favorite actors. Um, yeah, so
What? And then he starts. He gets a crush. Basically, this whole movie, he has a giant crush over a neighbor he met once
yeah,
and almost banged, and then she got called basically to the Illuminati powerful people cult that she's a part of.
yeah.
And he goes looking for it. And most of the movie, until the end, the reveal, we think she is murdered. Um, or
Yeah, and that's fair because I mean, really think about the idea of you just met this person and then you go home that night late at night and then you come home, go over to their house the other day, and it's completely gutted and they've all moved out within like 6 hours overnight. That is
yeah,
actually
that
very
is weird.
perplexing.
I would immediately, I wouldn't go to the links he would go to, but I would think, were they criminals? Did they have to run from the law? What happened?
Yeah, what the fuck happened? I probably wouldn't get any further involved than that though. Be like,
No, because
something's
that's some
fucked up
sketchy
here.
stuff, and I value my life.
Yeah. Now, I like the film is shot for the most part pretty traditionally, but when it wants to be, it will change at the drop of a hat to fit the scenario. Like when he's in the underground club talking to the balloon girl, and he wants to get up to dance, the camera suddenly rushes through people with like a wider angled lens, and it gets in the middle of the action while he's dancing and he's starting to get more sick, which I like that shot a lot. And then same for when he walks into the film, into the party later in the film, it's like almost like a steady cam tracking his face
Yeah, and
when
they
he's
definitely have that when he gets sick and crashes in the cemetery overnight. And there's a lot of very low angles close to the ground, zooming forward, almost like in The Walking Dead going, or not The Walking Dead, geez, Evil Dead going through the forest. There's some of those shots, and there's a lot of tracking in real fast, a lot of erratic movement, to reflect his psychological state.
yeah. Also, like when you're paranoid or at night and you think you see something in your peripheral vision and it's like kind of jerky, it's kind of like emulating that feeling sometimes, especially when he does literally see a shadowy figure following him at one point. Which
I mean, that
in LA, I wouldn't want. I know it's just
no,
a dream sequence, but it could be an actual like someone trying to mug you or some shit.
yeah, it's a dangerous city.
Um, and of course, when he goes to that club to talk to the balloon girl, she takes him underground, and there's all these like tombstone tables of dead celebrities and shit. Oh, that's good theming. It's fun.
It's yeah. There's a point where the actresses, the indie actresses who are also prostitutes,
Shooting stars.
girls, shooting stars, right? Uh, they move out of the way of a headstone and it says Hitchcock on it very blatantly. I'm like, what is this supposed to mean? Are they standing on the grave of Hitchcock?
It's just a gag.
Are they spitting in his face? It's just a gag.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I
It
think
was so
we
blunt
I
to
think
me,
we
it took
took
me out.
two different things from this movie. This movie's not trying to be very that serious. Like it
No, I'm not saying it's trying to be super serious.
I know it's just like
I don't. What is the joke there? If it's a gag, then what's
it
the
doesn't
joke?
have to be like a joke like with a punchline. It's just like, oh, look at all these, obviously shitting on Hollywood, but also being in the middle and part of Hollywood. I don't know. It's just having fun to me.
Yeah, we're all complicit with systems.
It's fun. Yeah, he's not saying, you know, he's the one making a studio movie, you know. It's just setting and theming of being surrounded by this shit, whether it's in the city or even just at home, his mom telling him to watch this movie. It's the posters everywhere. It's just surrounded. He's in this bubble and he's drowning in this bubble, and it's fascinating to watch. And
beating up children. I like that.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's when you get a sense so that this guy he's kind of unhinged. He beats up those kids for
shoves a raw egg in one of their mouths.
Yeah, dude.
Well, as unhinged and terrible as it is, part of me, yeah, I get it. A bunch of kids were peeing on my car and stuff.
Yeah, but you can't assault kids, dude.
Well,
you should have filmed them and called the police. Obviously, this guy's a little bit fucked. And another point is when he like tells that chick basically that he says fuck the homeless, compares them to lingering ghosts and shit.
And he's about to get evicted.
He's like, he got like a 1 day grace period from the cop right before this happened. It's like, fuck you.
And then he doesn't get the money. He doesn't even try to get the money.
I know, yeah.
It's just, I need somewhere to sleep so I can keep following this mystery.
That's what's interesting. Yeah, he just doesn't give a shit anymore. It's like neckbeards that just let their house fill with like thousands of cans of like beer and shit and just let it escalate.
Yeah, NEET, not in employment, education, or training.
Yeah, exactly. And there's some connection here and there with his mom because she wants him to watch some movie that starts Janet Gaynor, and then he wakes up in front of Janet Gaynor's tombstone. And I think that's one of the movies that connects to the whatever Illuminati group and like the stars that are in it or something. Okay. But I like that you were talking about earlier, one of the most important scenes of the film is when he's jerking off. That's a fun way to process visually that he's looking through information, is that he's like jerking off during this, which is also earlier in the scene, like I said, he was having sex casually while watching the news and stuff, like some sort of, I don't know what the deal was, why he's so sexually charged and why this is such a, I don't know, it gets him into trouble maybe. Yeah, dude, the guy cannot think clearly, obviously.
No, that's the thing. He can't. He's like, I need some post nut clarity for this mystery.
He likes magazines. He gets involved with. He likes this zine that someone's been making, like homemade, called Under the Silver Lake, and it's alluding to all these secret things happening, and that's what really gets him invested. And you would think it's just like a cool kind of artistic piece about Hollywood, but he goes over to the guy's house to talk to him about it, and this guy's actually way more far in on this shit than even Andrew Garfield is. And he's like showing him like a back of a 80s cereal box, which is funny because at first Andrew Garfield's kind of scoffing at it. He's like, what, really? And then it turns out that there's something inside that box that actually leads to the mystery.
That scene, we'll get to it.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. That shit's fucking awesome. And I like that. No, we can talk about that. We can
talk about it. There's when we were first in that. Okay, so I'm a huge Zelda fan, huge. And when we first watched that scene, I'm like, oh, he has a Link's shield in the corner, and oh, there's a Link figurine from Legend of Zelda on his TV. And I think that's just to show that he's some shut-in neckbeardy type. That's all I think it is, part of the production design. And then in a scene that is absolutely absurd and unhinged, he gets Nintendo Power #1, which is, and I'm such a nerd, as soon as I saw the cover, I'm like, oh, that's the first issue, because I just know that.
I knew that.
And gets out the map from the original Legend of Zelda and overlays it with an 80s cereal box map of LA and uses the coordinates to find the secret. Like, what the what?
That is the shit. That's when it goes to the next level of absurdity of this conspiratorial fucking odyssey of madness.
No, and it's comedic. It's and it weird and it does at least try to
It
balance.
feels like an AVGN bit.
Yeah, it is. It does.
It feels like this is like an episode that AVGN would have had to like solve a mystery. People at home, that's the angry video game nerd, famous for. He even has a Nintendo Power episode where he talks about Nintendo Power. And so, and it's like, so Nintendo Power is core to this movie. and Topher Grace is like playing Mario. I'm like, did they get permission for Nintendo to have this be an integral part of their movie? Or
I don't
what?
know. I don't know. I don't know how stuff like that works.
Yeah.
Nintendo doesn't just hand out licensing to people.
Because that is crazy. And it's really, really funny to me that that's they implemented a secret code like 35 years ago in a Nintendo Power magazine
with an American cereal company,
yeah.
To connect to a cult of billionaires. Yeah,
it's awesome, dude. I love that shit so much, and I think it's too much for you, but
it's a lot. Also, again, for the audience, I finished this movie about 30 minutes before we started recording this podcast, so I am still processing it.
The interesting thing for
and
me
I like this movie more than I don't like it. And
okay.
This movie is a very scene by scene movie for me, is what it is. There's
That's
some scenes that I think work, some scenes I think don't work in elements, and then there's a couple of scenes that I love that I think are great.
For me, it's such like a weird odyssey kind of film. It has some of this dreamlike shit in it that I like the mystery aspect of it. I like the possibilities of what's going on in this world. And so every scene for me was just like kind of like I was just hanging out with the guy, just going along with him, and I was interested to see what happens. And I was always very engaged with this movie.
I was engaged
more so than It Follows.
Yeah, no, I understand. I think It Follows is definitely more tonally consistent and successful in what it's trying to do film. This movie reaches more and it doesn't quite get it all the way.
I can see this being polarizing, of course. That's why it had like a delay. But like the thing is that it came out on like I think DVD or Blu-ray overseas somewhere before it even got a screening here. So I watched this in 2018, like 7 or 8 months before it even came out officially. And it's like it finally came out in theaters, and I was like, oh yeah, I saw that last year. And it was just annoying that like it took that long to get distribution. I felt bad for him.
And when we went to LA, which is the first time I had been to LA, you were very inspired by Under the Silver Lake. You're like, we need to visit these locations. We need to, like, there's stuff going on. There's conspiracies. You had me sit under the Newton statue. You dressed as a homeless man and blindfolded me. All of that. Remember? You gave me some tea and I woke up and you had me tied up in a chair.
Oh yeah, that was crazy, huh?
Yeah.
No, we did go to Griffin Park when we were in LA because you got to.
Yeah.
And
cool.
it's always fun to
LA's actually not a great tourist city, weirdly enough.
I know, it's just fun it's always fun to see that in movies. It's like, oh, I've been there,
Yeah, I did notice he's the only one at Griffith Park right now. Okay. But that's you suspend your disbelief because they blocked it off. It's like, no, that place is packed all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Just people don't realize if you haven't been to LA, you don't realize how long it takes to get to different locations tourist wise, because you have to go across the fucking interstate and that takes like 30 minutes a piece.
It takes about at least a half hour to get anywhere in LA.
It would take 5 to 8 minutes where I live. It takes 30 to 40 minutes in LA, so you kind of have to pick and choose.
It's really for the same distance.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Like it's crazy. And it can be really stressful driving over there.
Yeah.
Like
I
fucking
have other
8 lanes of traffic and shit. And you're like, God damn it, what's going on?
I've done it. You
Oh
know,
man.
even people there, you don't get used to it. All people do is complain about parking and traffic.
Yeah.
That's all they do. And I keep being like, imagine if we had more transit. Imagine if our country prioritized that. But
Yeah.
no, because
That's why I
Roger
was
Rabbit
always
isn't real. Bob
I was
Hoskins
surprised
couldn't
they didn't
be.
have like a when I was a kid, you see the subway system in the movies, you kind of think that there would be one in LA and as well
There
as New
is
York. At least I did as a kid. And when I
not as
figured
well
out
as New York,
there
though.
wasn't one, I was like, well, how do they get around?
No, and I used the subway system last time I was there. Yeah, it was grungy and not well maintained and about everything you'd expect it to be.
Right.
But also, this is a city that is, even in the past 10 years alone, has decayed massively.
Yeah.
That's why everybody's going to Austin and ruining Austin. I don't know. I've never been to Austin.
The interesting thing about Andrew Garfield's character is that despite being completely unhinged, believing and buying into all this shit, it turns out that he's right and 100% on the money.
Is he?
That's the fun part.
If we're assuming it's not all just paranoia.
Oh
And
yeah, I'm just saying within the context though, he's right.
right.
And
And at first, I'm like, is there even enough to go off of where I can believe that there might be something here? And then as it goes on, they do a good job of doling it out. And then about midway or a little after midway through the movie, you're full on into some high level stuff, or at
yeah,
least on the fringes of it.
because like even when he meets the comic writer, he's like, okay, this is a little. And the comic writer tells him about the owl lady, and even then he's like, okay. And then the comic writer is killed by the naked owl lady. And so, that escalates.
Right. Who also isn't explained. I always just assumed they were a hitman, hit woman of the elites.
Yes.
That's just how they did it. The owl is also a symbol of Moloch, a pagan god who is worshipped at the Bohemian Grove by elites.
Yeah.
Worshipped, quote unquote. They have a sort of mock ceremony. I'm sure some people believe it, most don't.
Yeah, that's interesting anyway.
And then back in the day, all the politicians would get together and have watch lynchings for fun. That's what
And
the
gay
elites would do
sex.
for fun. Yeah, and probably there's gay stuff happening. And pee on trees.
The theatrical nature of the film, I think, peaks when he figures out about the songwriter, and as he approaches the songwriter's house, it looks almost like it's this matte painting of a castle, very theatrical.
It looks like he's going to Emerald City. Almost.
It reminds me of that, and it reminds me kind of like the mansion from Citizen Kane, Xanadu or whatever.
Also, best scene in the movie, hands down. I said this movie is very scene by scene. There's a lot of scenes I'm like, okay, that didn't work for me. Okay, that was a good scene. This is a great scene. Absolutely.
That's interesting because I was worried the whole time. I was like, this concept might be a little too absurd for some people, but I really like it. Like this guy, it turns out this guy has written every great hit and everything about what we thought as normal people and influenced by music is just bullshit. It's just a message for the elites. It means
That's all.
nothing.
And it's obviously just commenting on people. Again, teenagers will rebel to music that is made by a corporation. A lot of those hits are made by some Swedish songwriter who I can't remember, who wrote "I Want It That Way," and which is referenced and he plays it. And the way the songs flow into each other is well done. And the actor who wears old man makeup, which makes it even kind of creepier.
Yeah.
He finds Kurt Cobain's guitar, which he has so much stuff. He's like, oh, that might be his. I don't know. He doesn't even know. Because I assume that they killed Kurt Cobain because he got too close to some stuff. That's the implication. Yeah. And that's why I think Andrew Garfield is a failed musician who came to LA. No, that is absolutely. And at one point he plays Beethoven's Ninth, the Ode to Joy, that pops out. So I'm like, has this guy been living since the early 1800s?
Maybe.
I like to think so.
I do too. Yeah. Yeah. And like, obviously we get that setup where that chick he's friends with comments on the Kurt Cobain poster or whatever, and so he talks about how much he likes him and stuff. So of course for him, even hearing that Nirvana was a part of this it's crushing. He can't
It
handle
put him over the edge. That's the one.
Yeah.
This Smells Like Teen Spirit. The guy plays it, and he loses it. Guy gets out a gun. He dodges bullets basically, and then smashes him with Kurt Cobain's guitar in a comical, way over the top.
Yeah, almost like a music video or some shit.
Yeah, face caving in,
Yeah.
pulpy blood dripping off the guitar, splattering everywhere, Tarantino-esque.
Yeah, because like when you look at the rating of the movie, it says like graphic violence, and you're like, well, this hasn't been too crazy so far.
There's some dead dogs. Oh.
Yeah. I was like, well, maybe it was for the dead dogs because people are very sensitive to that. No, it's because his face gets crushed.
There's even that shit. This is, I think, a commentary on that. Somebody's like, well, if somebody would kill a dog, they would have no problem killing a human. And there are people who actually would think that way. I don't know. I just never got it when people are more upset when a dog dies than a person dies in a movie. A lot of the time it's because for storytelling reasons, we want our to be able to mow down a bunch of bad guys commando style. But when we actually want some pathos, okay, well, the dog is innocent. Those guys weren't. That's what it is.
Yeah.
We want to show this guy's bad. He kicked a dog.
There's even a joke in the Eli Roth's new movie Thanksgiving where the killer beheads a victim, and then the cat's like staring at him afterwards, and he takes the time to like put more food in the cat's bowl before he leaves the house. Yeah. So, because for a second I was like, they're not going to kill this fucking cat, are they? No, the exact opposite.
No. Hitler had a dog. He was a fan of dogs, but he also tried the cyanide pill on the dog first. So turns out Hitler's not such a great guy.
I think my favorite line in the movie is actually from that songwriter when he says, "There is no rebellion. It's just me getting a paycheck." It's so cold, dude.
So cold.
And so true with all these fucking corporations.
Yeah. Look at how Green Day has turned out over the years.
Yeah. Well, especially not even just corporations, but like we've talked so much about Zaslav and Warner Bros over the last few casts. We talk about them here and there, and people know what's going on with that corporation, just how cold that is, calculated.
Well, movies are products, and that's fine. Like, make your money. I get it. Artists need to make money. I do think, sometimes people are like, oh, why do I have to pay to read this news story? It's like, because journalists need to eat. I don't know. You used to have to buy newspapers. Now the economy's really weird, and it all runs off my phone bill and OnlyFans, I guess. I don't know where money gets made. I don't know. This is so great.
I think
it's like a 9 out of 10 scene in like a 6, 7 out of 10 movie for me.
It's weird that you would fucking quantify it. We don't usually give scores.
No, I don't quantify it, but you get the gist of it.
I think this is a really cool, fun movie.
It is a fun movie.
I know, but 6 out of 10 is harsh to me. I think this is awesome. But that's okay. We can disagree on movies.
Yeah, we can disagree on movies. That's fine. I like that. I think it makes things more interesting for the beloved listener.
I think the most obvious
listener, if you like that, if you like this movie, then drop us a like. And if you don't like this movie, drop us a subscribe.
Yeah, go unsubscribe from Channel Awesome and subscribe to us instead. Anyway, the most damning thing to me of this dude's fantasy is that when he's with the daughter of Jefferson Sevens and they're talking and they go skinny dipping, she's shot under the water in front of him, and she makes the exact same cover of the Playboy that he's been jerking off to his whole life. And that's obvious. It could just be cool imagery, but to me, I think it goes further than that.
Where do you think it goes?
I think it's just, part of his fantasy.
Yeah. You think it's not real? You think he killed her?
No, I just think this is all just one big schizophrenic kind of thing. A guy who would love for this to all be true. Like he's the center of this narrative, but also maybe not, because it really is this devastating kind of blow to him that all of this leads up to just so rich elites can seal themselves in a tomb like the pharaohs because they think they can ascend. And all this madness, all this killing, all this crazy shit is going on because Hollywood elites believe that they can ascend. And it's fucking sad and pathetic and ridiculous.
It is. And I almost wonder if some people didn't get that. It is kind of supposed to be a little underwhelming. It's weird because it's so spiritual in such a godless town, in a very spiritual yet godless town. And just speaks to the absolute narcissism. They have all their concubines with them who are all hippie chicks. And
there is this interesting moment where he does get to talk to that girl one last time, and she kind of tears up a little bit while talking to him, but she's already accepted her fate. There could have been like a scene where he somehow infiltrates this bunker and like gets her out and stuff, but it's kind of just too late. And
how many men and women have sold their soul for fame, power, money, or have been complicit in things, or have turned a blind eye to abuse?
Yeah. Also, how many Scientologists have seen crazy shit go on and they just think it's all leading to some sort of spiritual awakening or elevation?
Maybe it is straight up a Scientology take.
But also, it's a generalization, but
I think this movie is very much against the idea of, I think utopia is a dangerous concept because people are focused on the life after or the life that could be, instead of thinking of how do I make the most of the life I have in my circumstances now.
Yeah.
Instead of improving your own circumstances, you look for different circumstances.
The prime example being Elon Musk wanting to rush off to Mars instead of working on what's wrong with the Earth today, and all the tech bros being like, yeah, fuck the Earth, let's go to Mars, we'll be the first Martians.
Yeah, that one's dark.
Yeah, and it's a real thing that a lot of people are excited about.
No, they're probably, if you're talking globally, a few million of people who are legitimately excited about going to Mars. I'm like, do you think that's going to be better than Earth? Really? Have you seen a picture of Mars? I have. I'd rather be here. Put a picture of Mars and a picture of Fiji next to each other and ask me, where would you rather live?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, damn. People. Of course, only the richest of men can afford this so-called ceremony.
And there is a true thing. The rich do have doomsday bunkers. That is not a conspiracy. And it's one of those things. It's like, well, then they would have to have a control of food or something, because money wouldn't mean anything in a post-nuclear setting, to get their bodyguards or stuff. And at that point, I'm almost like, dude, just kill me. Like at that, like I think I've said this before on the cast. If I hear nuclear sirens and I got nowhere to hide, I'm driving to the Air Force base near here and getting as close to that blast as I possibly can. Like, it's over. What am I gonna do? Just die slowly of leukemia while mutants with their Gatling guns shoot me like in Fallout? No, I'm done.
Yes,
I'm done.
Dude, that sounds badass.
Kinda, yeah.
I would try to see if I could survive. It would be a challenge, and then I could live with like harems and like weird mutant, like,
you would not be at the top of the Morton Joe mountain. All right.
I would find a way. I would make my own civilization of about 20 people.
He would just be drinking his titty milk and laughing at you. It's, man, and that's another thing. Even post-apocalyptic fiction, I think part of the fantasy of a zombie apocalypse is, what if I could leave all my problems behind and just, it's kind of like those break rooms where you get to like get your rage out. It's kind of like that, but with zombies. What if I could just kill a bunch of people, but guilt-free because they're already dead, and scavenge and live on my own? There's certainly an aspect to the post-apocalyptic fantasy that is that. It's almost like Walden, but way more aggressive.
I think the core of the movie at the end, that does work, that it's this poetically pathetic end for these kind of elites. Like, okay, we're going to live down here 6 months and then die, but we think we're going to ascend. All of this effort just for that shit. It's fucking sad.
It is sad. And it's the pursuit of wealth. That's what it is. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I get it. Obviously, like, would I rather have $1 billion? Yeah. But
Yeah.
I don't know. Not really. Any amount of work to get to $1 billion. And also, nothing I like makes money. That's something I've just had to like. I've just had to, like, I've just like, working in the public sector, I prefer, and doing stand-up comedy, which for 99% of working comics is, you know, a working class existence. It's just,
Yeah.
here we are.
Yeah. Yeah,
but
this is
I didn't like this movie though. I do want to leave this off like saying I didn't dislike this movie.
That's fine. Yeah.
And maybe a few years from now, 2 or 3 years from now, I'll rewatch it and find new things to like about it. It just didn't completely hit me. I got better as it went on, and I got more sucked into it.
As much as I like this movie and It Follows, I wish that his next movie wasn't It Follows follow-up.
Yeah,
I want to see what he would do next.
Yeah, these are two such, it isn't, you can see the fingerprints there, but these are two such different movies that you're like, well, what would his third movie be? I imagine it would be completely different if he had his way.
We've talked about a lot of sophomoric efforts in the last few weeks on this with Elephant Man and Southland Tales, and
this is sophomoric. In a lot of ways, it's similar to Southland Tales, I feel.
I like this way better than Southland Tales.
Yeah, I probably like this better.
But it's, I believe it or not, more coherent than Southland Tales.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, it's not even close.
Yeah.
Mulholland Drive.
What do you make of the ending where he's kind of just like staring off at his apartment getting evicted basically, and then he's kind of just ends there?
Who knows? He probably goes, maybe he becomes homeless, maybe he moves back in with his mom. I think that's likely.
Yeah.
Maybe he moves in with Topher Grace, or just crashes on his couch for months at a time without paying rent. Who knows?
He needs to go get a psychiatric evaluation.
Oh yeah, this guy needs lithium and antipsychotics.
Because if it's real, then he killed that fucking guy with a guitar. And it was partially self-defense, but also the part of the fantasy is that he gets tied up by the homeless guy, and then after swearing that he just had those treats in his pocket because he was hoping to see that girl's dog, the guy's just like, okay, you can go. And he's like, oh, okay. That's yeah.
He's like, you aren't gonna kill me? He's like, no, I don't think so. I don't know.
I was like, okay. Yeah, that's definitely more of the comedic side of the film. So yeah, I don't know. People I think are deciphering shit about it too far. I think it's just for fun.
It's
and I don't think the director is trying to infiltrate the Illuminati.
I think he just put in some coded references to occult and conspiracy theory stuff just to add to the movie.
Sure. Like I did the same shit with Son of Saturn. Just for fun, because I found all that stuff very interesting, you know.
You're not a Luciferian. Just
like Bill Cipher with at the end of every Gravity Falls episode there was code, and that was always fun for viewers to try and figure out what was going on. That was, you know, it's just fluff. But also I like that when a film has people on subreddits trying to pick it apart like that. And I don't mean pick it apart like Rise of Skywalker. I mean, you know, in a different way.
It's a good thing to do. It's like creating an ARG out of your film is a way to build a fan base.
Yeah.
And to keep your film alive.
And if your film is inspiring people to look deeper into film and how film works and stuff like that, and how this film works, that's cool, man. I appreciate that. So Robert Mitchell, I hope They Follows is a banger. I hope it's an Evil Dead 2 to Evil Dead level of like increase. I hope it takes you to the next level, because I appreciate any director that takes crazy swings like this movie. So anyway, I think that about wraps it up for Under the Silver Lake, Next week on the Harbor, we're going to a very specific, special place for me. A very extreme interest that I have. His name is Godzilla. We are going to talk about the original 1954 masterpiece, and because we're also celebrating the fact that we're going to see the fucking new one, Godzilla.
We get the early release
IMAX showing. Oh, it's gonna be
already got
sick.
tickets. Oh, I'm excited.
Yeah,
this
dude, I
movie's
can't
getting
wait.
major reviews. Shin Godzilla was maybe the best one, and this one seems to be of comparable quality. So I am stoked.
So yeah, post-war Godzilla. We've never had that before. So look forward to that. I think I'm gonna watch both the Japanese and American version of 54 so I can talk about it, because I haven't seen American version since I was a kid. I used to
I've only seen the American version, and as a kid, because that's the only one they had the video.
Oh, you're gonna shit yourself then when you see the regular version.
Oh, I've read about it.
Oh my god. So yeah, look forward to that. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you want to help us, like, share, subscribe, as all the big YouTubers say, because it actually does help. We're slowly but surely gaining. We're getting some few people. Thanks for anyone that watched our last episode on Southland Tales. The episode was fucking crazy. Anyway, thanks for listening. We'll see you next week.